Good afternoon, Scott Redler, T3 Live. Welcome to today's recap. So markets saw some weakness off the open. Got hit pretty quickly, and then I think even the S&P went a little bit below the 21-day, and then within the first 30 minutes, you had a pivot low to trade against. You saw some tech names go green. You saw a few things start to act better, but besides them isolating the weakness in the financials, and lo and behold, towards the end of the day, we closed pretty well, right back in the upper end of this S&P range, where you had again, two little points of reference, one being the 21-day, which we reclaimed, and then once we reclaimed yesterday's low, which was a point to think about adjustments, whether it was putting some risk on, covering some shorts, that's that RDR tactic that we always talk about, and then now let's just look at the chart pattern once again. So here you are. Here is this upper range, which we've been navigating, and it's had a lot of false moves. I would say this right here was one of them. Remember this ascending channel? If you want to do just want to go through a few chart patterns. First of all, this was when the accelerated trend line broke to the downside, and here was your 3-day pivot that changed the course of the market back to the upside. Small breakdown, right back into the range, boom, boom, overthrow. Seemed as if we were going to be off to the races, and then, outside day, RDR, two different spots, took out this high, went below it, took out the low, and then we had to move to the bottom end of the range before overthrowing it. And then this little pivot looks very similar to this pivot, right? You could have covered some shorts, got back involved, quick move to the upper end. Here was your red dog reversal, higher low. Friday, some weakness even with the jobs report, and then today, another small RDR, held the 21-day, back above Friday's low. Right here, so now you have a series of higher lows, low, higher low, higher low. Now the question is, can we get some traction above this? And we shall see. Doesn't really matter that much, as every stock is basically trading in their own little universe. Strongest sector still, XLE. Topping tail here, gave some clues to maybe just, pull back some risk and see what's next. 8-day caught up, and now it looks as if, they could break out again. So if you're in these names, and I think you heard it from all the big hedge fund guys, a lot of them seem to like the drillers and this group, and looks pretty strong. Let's see what the OAHs look like. OAHs, nice bull flag up here, hugging the 8-day. Been doing that for a while now. Maybe if the market wants to go, this is a group to look at. So you probably want to look at some names in there, whether it's VLO, hugging the 8-day, looking pretty good. Let's see what Oxy looks like. Nothing really. Let's see what Schlumberger looks like. Getting tight again. Real tight here, right? Hugging the 8-day. Maybe it wants to wake up again. This outside day right there. Definitely, even if you reduce risk right there, at least you haven't had to be in this noise right here, and you could always revisit if it gets better or acts better. Halliburton, that looks pretty good, where it's flagging again, still riding the 8-day. So that group still looks good. The group that we've been focusing on is the things that move a little bit faster. Technology. What was going to happen today? Did that right shoulder build, or are we still trying to hold higher, creating another higher low in the Qs in order to break that descending channel here? And if you look here at the Qs, you'll see pretty interesting, right? Here is here just say right here, the upper head and shoulders pattern, the left shoulder, head, right shoulder broke it for downside. Then you had your outside day when support held after being very oversold, moved back to resistance, another higher low, and then look what happened right here. Some weakness turned into a little bit of a red dog reversal, and now we're hovering right back at that pretty crucial level here of 88. We break through this, maybe we just started a new trend that we could follow, and then we'll see how long that lasts. But if you recognize that quickly intraday, great. A few thoughts of mine, off the open were. First thing, everyone knows Apple. I've been trying to be long Apple since the earnings. I thought the dynamics of the 7-for-1, the buyback, the dividend, all that, was going to put a nice backdrop there. And you had that nice 4 or 5 day move up to almost 600. But that was a little too far, too fast. And then we had a nice bull flag get put in place. If you're on Redler All Access, I posted that chart this morning. If you're on the VTF, you saw I went long Friday again, and I was long all day today. Even overnight. We'll see what happens overnight. Here's your Apple. Nice textbook trading here for the first time in a while, like almost the Apple of old. Gap up after earnings. Relative week, remember that day the market was down 150 and it closed on the highs. That was actually my 10-year anniversary. I was watching my phone all day. While I was saying to my wife I had to go to the bathroom to see if I was still long and it was working out. Anyway, don't take stock on your anniversary and if you want to stay married. But anyway, here you go. It traded above 570, closed well. Then it was a week ago that it took off, and then you had that small RDR, which said, okay, you know what, take some off. I think I got flat for a day. And then you had this little RDR here with this pivot, and then inside, and then today you could have been long tier 1, and then once it crossed above 595, it wound up being an add, or maybe an add above 599.43, and then it closed above 600. So we can go to the chart to look a little longer term to see what's next. Let's see here. You know what, maybe I'll do the weekly for you. Go to the weekly chart. What is next? We are above now this pivot, which was at 584 area. This was 523 or 623. I'm sorry. So you know, some guys are on the side were saying that they think the measured move of this takes it to 620, which maybe it does. I guess you could. I don't know if this would be deemed like a cup and handle pattern. What do you think, guys? Cup, handle. Here's going across. So if the depth of the cup is 400 and this peak here was 575, that's 175 points on top of 575. That's 675. That brings you to all-time highs. We shall see. I know I did come out on the day of the split because everyone's like, Red Dog, what do you think now? Do you think you'd ever make all-time highs? I said, I think with this parameters that if I were to have an iPhone to head, north or south of 100 post-split after, you know, or just a year-end, I think north of 100, which then would give you close to 700. So let's just hope this trading, the way it's been pent up and trading with patterns persists because it's given us good entries and exits. We could hold some, trade around some, and develop some cash flow. So anyway, let's move on. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Tesla was also a good one today. You look actually here on the weekly, it just broke above this small descending channel here, okay, or this triangle. I know it has earnings on Wednesday, so it makes it hard to stay with it through. But if you were in it today, it happened fast. Holding in there on Friday was a key, and then this could have been your add around 213, 214, closed well. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Always gets a little bit more complicated as you get closer to earnings. I was talking about Facebook this morning going green. We talked about the potential of this big head and shoulders pattern. I said if you wanted to stay in the game, it has to probably reverse around here. So as of right now, this overall pattern could come off the table once again. We shall see. Now, if I were looking at this, which I am looking at it because I am long some Facebook and it was a decent cash flow trade this morning, you now have a bit of a descending channel here. You have a move off the lows, digesting, bit of a bull flag up here, and we'll see if it holds here and goes sideways a little bit more. Maybe it takes out to 62.28 for continuation. As of today, just a nice trade from down 80 cents to green and it closed sort of well. LinkedIn also is down 3. We talked about maybe that being saved, and it held long-term support, closed okay. We'll see what happens there. They even came after Yelp a little bit later too to create a small higher low. Nothing so huge, but looks pretty decent. Google, really not much to talk about. Actually, Google wound up being lethargic all day, but came back up. You have a low, higher low, and it's still contending with this, which could turn into a better trade. I know Netflix guys were talking about on the VTF, and you had your low, little pivot, broke above, held higher, closed pretty well. So this might want to see 360-ish before it has to figure out what's next. So this bounce back, is still intact. They held it today, and now the moving averages are starting to curl up. We'll see what happens tomorrow if it's buyable through 346 for continuation. And then you had some of the weaker names. You had the financials. We talked this morning. I was like, what's going to happen here? Is JP Morgan going to hold that area? What was that? Something 4. Okay, yeah, at 54. So it wound up, opening below it, came back, and there's a little bit green. So it didn't fall apart, so that kind of helped the market. So what do you know now? This gap never got filled, leading to more weakness. Now we got to see if we consolidate in here. Do they fill this gap, which would mean that it's still going to be in this range, or does it go sideways and break lower? We shall see. It was definitely a crowded trade today, not much to do there. What did Goldman Sachs do today? Goldman Sachs came off the lows, and maybe tomorrow fills the gap a little bit. Still high, lower high, lower high. Couldn't clear here, still below the 200-day, so it's not really worth your time except for small little trades. Some solar names are looking decent. I think SPWR, nice pattern here. Flagging right here by the highs. I was going to be in FSLR, but then I found out the earnings are tomorrow, so I get out of the way. But overall, this pattern does look like people are trying to put some money and play some bullish bets. So let's hopefully they deliver for them, and maybe we even get a trade above 71 to 74. A lot of commitment to this in the course of the last 2 months. So we'll see. That'll help that group, maybe even help something like Solar City. That woke up a little bit, but this also has earnings on Wednesday. Still, this actually has been weaker. Well, it's actually may have been a little bit of a take-home by some today, as it looks as if it might squeeze a little bit going into it. So if you're looking at Solar City above 57, maybe it tries to break a little higher before earnings. And lastly, let's just punch up gold. Gold gapped up, so you had to really be long it overnight on this engulfing day. Didn't get much traction. Now for all you bugs out there, the only way I would be happy about it is if now let it go sideways above this gap. So now you have 126 to trade against and see if it holds for some continuation. Nice, follow through for you guys at least. Close strong. You got to up open. Can't ask for much more than that. Hard to get so much more traction as still, gold has a lot to prove. TBTs had a rare bounce today. Still pretty broken as far as rates and bonds and blah, blah, blah. But today they tried and see if it builds. This trend has been really, really steep, and it's below the 200-day, and maybe I guess if it wants to bounce a little bit, it could bounce back to 65-ish, but then it'll have to prove again. Every time it bounces back, sold. Like here, bounce back, sold, bounce back, sold, and this has been, so now it's just really oversold, so potentially that could be the magnet. We'll see. If it's going to do that, it's got to get through this first, which is 64. So with that being said, I don't know how many times I said that, some decent trading today. We love red to green trades, right? Red to green. A lot of guys, if you're short on Friday, maybe you like the green to red trade, and then each way you got some follow through. Both ways, day-and-a-half trades are working out both ways. And then as patterns build, we'll be able to stick with things, hopefully for more than a day and a half, and get some patterns and get some places to add and take off, kind of like what we saw with Apple recently, and maybe we get to see some others. And recently we just haven't had that. Well, it's been in certain spots. Unfortunately for me, I haven't been in those spots. I've been more in technology, in the bios, and social, and those type of trades have been really erratic, but there's been spots to at least have a calculated entry for a day and a half and sometimes a little bit more. Tomorrow, Twitter has the big lockup. We'll see what happens tomorrow. A lot of people think it's going to be the end of the world. We'll see what happens, because if it doesn't trade below 37.24 in the first, 15 to 30 minutes, and the shorts get scared, maybe we get a little bit of a bounce back up to retrace a little bit of this move here. Their earnings weren't that bad, okay, but a lot of people are scared about how many shares are going to be sold tomorrow. I remember the Facebook trade. It was way back when I was actually leaving for vacation or something like that, when people thought the world was going to end here. I think on Facebook, I think it was on this day. No, that was let's see, where was that? No, that was yeah, I think it was on this day, at right around 20. Didn't sell off, and then boom, big squeeze. Not saying it's going to happen tomorrow. Twitter. I'm just saying, just don't have full-fledged short in the brain unless the stock tells you, and it's been battered from 75 all the way down here. Maybe it shouldn't have been at 75, but who knows if it should be here. The only thing we have is a point of reference at 37.24, and then if it were to get above this 39.60-ish, perhaps it retraces. Monday, that's all we're in. We got a lot of days to go. Earnings are winding down. We're at the upper end of the range. It shall be interesting. Have a great night.